What the heck is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to our Week 13 starts. Obviously, if you're watching our videos, you know what the heck is up. Go like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff.
And share.
But enough talking. Let's get straight into the football, man.
All right, starting off with our quarterback position. Who wants to go first?
Would you like to start?
I'll go first. My quarterback start of the week this week is going to be the Washington football team quarterback, Taylor Heinicke. Here's some numbers for you.
Let's hear some numbers.
In games that Taylor Heinicke has started this season, he's averaging 21.8 fantasy points a game. 21.8. 21.8.
Everybody's overlooking that.
Yes. He's playing against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not a matchup that you're super excited for.
You're also not scared of it either.
Yes, you're not scared of it. You're not turning away from this matchup. No. Taylor Heinicke, to me, he's been fairly consistent this year. Mm-hmm. He's got guys he can throw the ball to. He's been consistent. Obviously, here's the numbers.
Here's the numbers.
That's all I have to say. He's Taylor Heinicke. He's performed well.
I'd like to take, on the other side of the matchup, one Derek Carr. I have some stats for you guys. So, the Washington football team has allowed 27.4 fantasy points to the quarterback position this year.
A game.
Yeah,
a game.
That is why they are the worst.
And let me tell you, the nearest team is 24 fantasy points allowed. So, they are giving up a whole 3 points over the average per that position.
Yeah.
And the Washington defense has allowed 2 passing touchdowns in the last 3 games. So they've allowed 2 passing touchdowns in each of those games. So obviously there's a lot of volume for Derek Carr to throw his touchdowns. Last week he threw for 373 yards against definitely a tougher defense than the Washington football team.
Yes.
Derek Carr has attempted over 30 passes in each game, but 2 of this season. He's throwing the ball at a high rate with a high amount of volume.
Yeah.
With the thought of them allowing 27.4 fantasy points, it means a high ceiling for Derek Carr this week.
Especially if he's on.
So, with that being said, would you like to get into your quarterback, Cameron?
Yes, I am getting into one Carson Wentz. No, Carson Wentz had a bounce-back game against Tampa last week, dropping nearly 30. It was the best game of the season for him so far. He's been a consistent 20 points per game. Last time he faced Houston, he gave you a nice 20-piece, and he's got Houston coming up again. I can definitely see him getting back on another streak for sure after the bounce-back game he had last week. Before last week, he had a couple abysmal games.
Well, they also were handing it to
Jonathan Taylor. And when you got Jonathan Taylor doing what he's doing, you
don't gotta worry.
Yeah, but I can definitely see Carson Wentz going back on that string of games.
Our next category is the running back category. Would you like me to start off?
Yes, start it off.
I'd love to start off. So this week I'm choosing the 49ers running back, Eli Mitchell, the man himself. So a few stats for you guys. He's handled 27 rushing attempts in the last 2 games. He's facing the second worst rushing defense this week against Seattle. They've given up big games to one like Antonio Gibson and Dalvin Cook. They have allowed 24.3 points to the running back position this year. The Seahawks have. With that being said, a good matchup for Eli Mitchell. He's coming off a good week last week. You're hoping that they keep on handing him the ball. And not to mention, he did have 6 targets last week for 6 receptions. So that is solid too. He didn't turn it into a whole lot. He got 35 yards off of those targets, but it's worth noting because they're starting to mix him into all sorts of plays. And he's not just that only running back archetype. You know what I'm saying? Like, they only hand it to him when he's on the field.
Right.
And now they're kind of like mixing him in there. He's catching a few passes. He's playing against a bad run defense. All of the signs point to a good Eli Mitchell game this year. Or this week. And continuing for this year as well. I like Eli Mitchell rest of season a lot.
I agree. Okay. Yeah. My running back start of the week is the Detroit Lions running back stepping into the starting role this week, Jamal Williams.
Let's go.
So we've seen in years past, well, actually, let me give you a statistic. Obviously, we saw, unfortunately, on the Thanksgiving Day game, DeAndre Swift left the game pretty early with a shoulder injury. And Jamal Williams stepped in, and he got 20 touches in the game.
Oh, wow.
20 touches. This week, he's playing against the Minnesota Vikings. which, similar to my quarterback start of the week, it's not a matchup where you're turning away from. Yeah. It's not. Dan Campbell just came out and said that he's expecting Jamal Williams to carry the load this week.
Let's go.
So it looks like he's going to get the large majority of the touches in that backfield. We've seen in previous years when he was in Green Bay, Aaron Jones would miss time, and he would step in.
And just take right over.
Yes, he would take over. To me, Jamal Williams is a very good start this week.
Oh, man. That's a smash play if you're able to get him.
It is. I'm very excited for this matchup for him.
Yeah, I'm going with one Antonio Gibson as my starter running back. We talked about him in our previous video, how he was getting most of the work in the backfield. J.D. McKissick also had a really good game, but it was greatly part of his two of the touchdowns and what he did on the receiving end of the football. But in terms of getting carries, Antonio Gibson, he's getting most of the work out of the backfield, and he's got a pretty favorable matchup in the Raiders. So I'm leaning Antonio Gibson over J.D. McKissick just for the simple fact that he's getting more work out of the backfield.
And
J.D. McKissick is likely not going to play.
Yeah, that as well. He's also questionable.
I believe he is in concussion protocol at the moment.
Yeah.
So he's not going to steal any of those receptions out of the backfield. So if we're looking at it on paper and we're looking at it from a matchup perspective, Antonio Gibson should have a good game this week. Mm-hmm. So wide receiver time, boys.
Wide receiver time. I'll get into mine first.
Let's hear it.
So my wide receiver start of the week is Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson.
So we've seen ever since the release of Deshaun Jackson, we've seen Van Jefferson's role grow. In the last 5 games, which is pretty much around that time frame when Deshaun Jackson was released, he's averaging 7.2 targets. So he's being targeted 7 times a game in the last 5 weeks, which is solid for a number 2 option on the football team. Last week he had a season-high 9 targets. Nice. Obviously he had a really good game last week. He had a touchdown, had some solid yardage. And his role is growing. He's playing the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, which Great matchup. With Odell Beckham being on the team, defenses are probably, I'm going to assume, that they're going to focus on Odell a little bit more than Van Jefferson. Obviously, Cooper Kupp draws a lot of attention. Darrell Henderson they're focusing in on. So Van Jefferson is kind of just like
a sneaky option.
Yes, he is. He really is.
Plus, we need to see a prove-it game from Odell, too.
Yes, we touched on that in the podcast.
We did touch on that.
So Van Jefferson, solid start this week for me.
Nice. I think I'm ready to go. I have 2 names that I want to toss out there. 1, Darnell Mooney, and 2, DeAndre Hopkins. So first things first, Darnell Mooney. I have stats, of course.
Of course.
He's amassed 120 yards in the last 2 games, and has received 24 targets throughout those 2 games. Allen Robinson is going to be out for this game. We're unsure on Justin Fields at the moment. Sterling said it was a toss-up.
Yes.
It's 50-50.
Andy Dalton is still getting the first team reps in practice, but Justin Fields is limited. It looks like they could hold him out one more week, but to me it looks like Andy Dalton's going to be starting.
Yep. Yeah, it does look that way. And if Andy Dalton does start, that means possibly a higher ceiling for Darnell Mooney this week.
Yes, I agree.
Last week he kind of got phased out in the 4th quarter against Detroit. And I hope that doesn't happen again this week, because he played well through those 3 quarters, but we were watching and he wasn't really targeted towards the end of the game. And, we're hoping that in this game script, hopefully Arizona comes out to a sizable lead and it forces them to throw the ball to Darnell Mooney. And one last stat, he's averaging 20. Last game he averaged 24.6 yards per reception, which is the highest this year for him. So he's catching bombs.
Yep.
And he's doing it consistently too. And when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins, it's more of you start him, he's been out for a little bit of time, and he has a smash matchup against the Bears, who have been pretty bad against the Pastures this year. And same could be said for one like Christian Kirk. It's kind of an upgrade in those matchups for the Arizona wide receivers this week.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for mine, I'm going Jalen Waddle. We discussed on on our previous podcast how he's become one of the most targeted receivers in the game. Up until these last 2 weeks, he was very streaky with the amount of targets he's getting. Devontae Parker being on the IR.
Tua looking good.
Tua looking very good right now. And the matchup isn't bad. It's the New York Football Giants, who are mid-pack. Yeah, I like it. I like the matchup. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either.
I feel like this is one of those games where they're probably gonna try to go back and forth at each other.
Yeah, you think it's gonna be a shootout?
I think it's gonna be a little bit of a blow for blow, receiving touchdown there for one team, and then a receiving touchdown for the other team.
So I'm going with Jalen Waddle because he's showing not only is he targeted the most, but you get that feeling that he's going to go on a good string of games here.
With tight end position?
Tight end position, baby.
Oh, boy.
So, Cameron.
You want me to start off?
I want you to start off.
I went with Jared Cook on mine. Every once in a while, he just has one of those games where he just cooks, for lack of a better term.
And you think it could? I think it could very well be against Cincinnati as well too.
Yeah, he's very athletic at tight end.
He is.
We saw the play he made last week.
Yes.
You
seen it?
Yes.
You seen it?
I don't know.
He caught over like 3 people. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so you're just I mean, you know where I stand on tight ends. Yeah, you're just hoping for a red zone threat. You're just hoping Jared Cook. But the thing with Jared Cook with me is he's not only a red zone threat, he has the ability to make plays in the open field.
Yeah, he attacks the middle of the field.
Yes. So, like I said, tight end toss up. I'm going with Jared Cook just because he has that ability to be a red zone threat, as we saw last week.
Justin Herbert should be looking his way.
Yes, and he has that ability to tear up the middle of the field.
My tight end start of the week is one of my favorite players this season, even though he's barely played, and it's Logan Thomas. So Logan Thomas played his first game back this season in last week against the Seattle Seahawks, and in his first game back, he had a 79% snap share. So 79% of snaps he got in his first game back.
They said he was going to be on a snap count too.
And he got basically 80% of the snaps on a quote-unquote snap count.
Right.
He had 6 targets last week in his first game back. And also, he's playing against the Las Vegas Raiders, who allowed the second most points to the tight end position.
Oof.
That is a beauty.
It's a great matchup. Got a high snap percentage.
Yeah.
Targeted high. He was this close away from catching a touchdown last week.
It got called back.
This close away.
How can you do my boy like that? That's my question.
He's basically, to me, he's the number 2 pass catcher on that football team.
Behind Terry McLaurin?
Yes.
I agree. This week, I'm coming with the streamer approach. And this probably doesn't have to be said, but Foster Moreau should be on your... If your tight end is on a bye, your tight end is hurt, your tight end is this or that, and can't play this week.
Or you have Darren Waller.
In part of the injured category.
Yeah.
You want to go pick up Foster Moreau. Last time he played and stepped in for Darren Waller, he played 100% of the snaps.
Yeah.
There is no other tight end that's competing for his snaps.
Yes.
You guys have seen that. Do you guys see the touchdown catch against Cincinnati? He mossed that guy.
I saw it as soon as I turned the TV on. That was the first thing I saw.
It was picturesque, man.
Yeah.
He just mossed him.
It really made me think we had a shot.
Yeah, and then we just blew it.
Yeah, and then we did Raider football, baby.
So, without being said, Darren Waller is a great tight end, and then Foster Moreau just fits perfectly into his role. Derek Carr likes his tight ends, and he proves that all the time. When Jared Cook played with us, and he excelled.
I was going to say sometimes too much.
Sometimes too much. So, and then...
Yeah. Foster Moreau is a really good red zone threat.
He is, too.
He is a really good red zone threat.
There's a chance he does for sure catch a touchdown.
Yes, there is a big chance he does catch a touchdown.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
We should have another video coming out soon.
Yes, sir.
But with all that being said, we had our starts of the week for this week.
If you're watching this right now, go watch the podcast after.
Of course.
This video, go watch the podcast, like the podcast, comment on both videos, subscribe,
Share it.
All that stuff.
Share it.
Yeah.
Hey, things have been going up for our channel.
Yes,
yeah.
they have.
Go blow us up.
Yeah, blow us up.
All right, guys, we're out of here.
Okay, yeah. Talk about that off camera.